The issue that has been most on the minds of the American political system are the trade issues. What does China's rise mean for American competitiveness?
American exports to an increasingly prosperous China have risen dramatically in recent years. But the U.S. is still running a record trade deficit with Beijing, $256 billion last year, fueled in the eyes of many American critics by China's undervalued currency, the yuan, which has enabled a flood of cheap Chinese exports to pour into the United States, as any visitor to Walmart will notice.
The Chinese yuan is undervalued, has been undervalued, presents the Chinese with a terrific advantage.
The deficit has sparked calls in Congress, especially from Democrats, for punitive tariffs on Chinese goods, although some analysts argue it's unfair to blame Beijing.
The causes probably go beyond just China. In essence, all that stuff we've been buying from Korea and Japan and Taiwan and Malaysia and Hong Kong before, we started buying from China now. If we didn't buy it from China, it's not that we would start making it here again.
But as communities across the American heartland have seen local factories shut down and relocate to take advantage of China's low-cost workforce, many are blaming Beijing for their current economic troubles.
There are a number of things. One, there's a straight-up loss of jobs in the shift of some manufacturing. The Economic Policy Institute recent study cites 2.3 million jobs, manufacturing jobs lost to China.
For American businesses operating in China, there's another set of issues. Difficulties in getting access to the vast Chinese market, piracy, and the rampant theft of intellectual property, causing U.S. companies billions of dollars in losses.
In particular, we worry about theft of intellectual property. We've never negotiated a trade deal that says it's okay for some other nation or companies in that nation to steal intellectual property. And that needs to be prosecuted vigorously. There needs to be a much stronger enforcement effort.
And then there's the question of what China is going to do with all the foreign exchange reserves generated by investment and trade, over $500 billion. Beijing has put most of this in treasury bonds because it views them as a safe investment. But this development has raised important national security questions, since these T-bonds help fund the U.S. national debt and keep the American government solvent. Stapleton Roy is the former U.S. ambassador to China. He now works for Kissinger Associates.
What would it mean if China were to decide to dispose of its dollar holdings and try to turn them into yen instruments or euro instruments? Is it possible? Are they likely to do it? What are the dangers posed to the United States by sovereign wealth funds, of which China has a very well-funded one now, in terms of coming into our country and buying assets?
While many of these tensions are specific to the U.S.-China relationship, China has come to symbolize the broader anxiety about globalization felt by many Americans.
There's clearly some angst about the economy and its future direction, about future jobs, about health care, about pensions, and so on. Those are all issues that are clearly in play in the United States and people think about. It's pretty easy for some to say, well, all these issues really have to do with China and China's rise, and somehow China's not playing fair and China's stealing our jobs and we have this big trade deficit.
All of which will, for the next president, make tackling the problems while sustaining an economic relationship vital to both sides a very tough job.